Story 1. Am I the a-hole here for walking out when my girlfriend's dad tried to test me like some kind of job interview? So I, 30 male, have been seeing Maya, 27 female, for a little over 2 years now. Things are good between us, but her dad, he's not exactly my biggest fan. He's one of those guys who thinks he needs to test me to see if I'm worthy of his daughter, and honestly, it's getting old. This weekend, Maya invited me to her parents' house for dinner. I didn't want to go at first, but Maya really wanted me there, so I agreed. It started off fine, but then, as usual, her dad started with the comments. I'm a graphic designer, and he's always saying things like, "Is that even a real job?" Or, "What do you do? Just move things around on a computer all day." I was trying to brush it off, but things got worse when he asked me to help him in the garage. I thought it was just some small thing, but then he handed me this ridiculously heavy toolbox and said, "Let's see if you can handle it." I told him I wasn't dressed for it, but he just smirked and said, "Figures. You don't look like you do much manual work." It was like he was waiting for me to do something wrong. When we went back inside, things didn't get any better. Her dad made this comment about how I probably don't even know how to fix a flat tire, and her mom joined in saying, "Bet you're the kind of guy who orders takeout every night, huh?" The whole table laughed, and Maya was just sitting there, kind of giggling along with them. At that point, I couldn't take it anymore. I snapped and told her dad, "I'm not here to prove anything to you. If I loved fixing cars, I'd be a mechanic, not a designer. I don't need a test to show I'm good enough for your daughter." The room went dead silent. Her dad got all defensive, saying I was being too sensitive, and Maya got upset with me too. She said I should have just gone with the flow and not made a scene. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I just grabbed my things and left. Now Maya's barely talking to me, and I feel like maybe I went too far, but I just don't get why her dad can't respect me. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your girlfriend should have stood up for you. 100%. You are dodging a bullet and deserve better. Yeah, not the a-hole. Her dad's a-hole with outdated ideas of toxic masculinity and underlying misogyny, thinking he has any say in whether you and her stay together. It's a bullying power play that comes from a place of projected insecurity, of trying to judge and control. You humored him much longer than I would have. In short, your girlfriend's dad is a bully. You shouldn't put up with his behavior anymore, and her being mad about it is a significant red flag. It sounds like she's used to it and never really thought about it. Hopefully she'll realize how gross it is and tell her I-hole dad to knock it off. Otherwise, your relationship has hit a fracture point. I don't understand her either, or I guess she's still in shock of what happened. She was laughing with them. She's only shocked you finally stood up for self. If you stay in this relationship, it's not going to get better. Are you really going to want to continue with this relationship? I want to clarify it first to her, if she doesn't understand my side. Any adult can see that it's wrong, and she's a grown adult. If she doesn't know she's a bully by now, I wouldn't marry her. A normal person would be deeply embarrassed that their dad is behaving like an especially immature middle school kid. Maya not only threw Op under the bus, she's mad Op doesn't like the fumes under the bus as he's getting trampled. She's so off base in being a partner, it's silly. Not the a-hole. It's weird that dads do this with their daughters' boyfriends, especially considering you're a grown adult with a career. And either way, he's being super disrespectful to you and his own daughter by acting this way. As a man, I want proof to myself that I'm worthy of her daughter. I don't want to impress her dad by saying like this, like that, or doing what her father want. I want to do it with my effort, not only for words. Dude, if she respected and loved you, she would have shut that down immediately. I'm a daddy's girl. You know how my dad tested guys? A simple handshake followed by, "Nice to meet you. Have you been approved by her cat? Yes? No? Took me 6 months to earn my grandkitty's approval." When I was younger, since we lived on 5 acres of forested land, with 3,000 acres of BLM land behind us, and very few neighbors and lots of predators, Dad kept a shotgun near the front door. The rumor around school was, "Careful how you treat Scary. Her dad keeps a shotgun by the freaking front door." All that to say, you deserve better than that. There is no excuse, no apology for what she has allowed to happen. No real father would ever be so disrespectful to his daughter's boyfriend the way that garbage heap has been to you, without his daughter's agreement and support. Get someone who values you enough to fight for and with you, not the a-hole. She's 27 years old. Dad's weird and you're not the a-hole. Also, rock on, designer. I used to be a designer. It is a surprisingly difficult job to do well. Let's see how her dad handles spending 40 hours on something just to have his client say he doesn't like it just on a whim. Not the a-hole she sat there while you got humiliated, and then she was upset when you stood up for yourself. You tried to remain respectful, and I think you did the right thing. Yes, man, that's the best thing that I can do. Story 2. Am I the a-hole? Buying a glass case for my figures to prevent nephew from ruining them. I, 25 female, and my husband, 25 male, are big gamers and collectors. We have an entire room in our house dedicated to having a shared space to play games. On the end wall, we have a shelf where we keep our game figures we like to collect, figures like old Skylanders and Disney Infinity figures. We are currently working on completing both of these sets. My sister, who we'll call Jane, 23 female, and her son, my nephew, who we can call Tommy, 6 female, live 2 states over, which means when they come to visit, they have to stay with my husband and I. I repeatedly tell Jane and Tommy that the figures in the game room are not to be touched, as they are collectibles in the works. Jane brushed this off and let Tommy play with these figures against my request. It wasn't until Tommy broke the head off of my Violet from The Incredibles figure, due to her neck being very thin compared to the size of her head, that Jane had finally scolded Tommy for touching my figures. This upset me so much I had to lock myself in my bedroom to cool off. All is well, as my husband surprised me with a new one for my birthday the month following. Once they headed back home from my house after Thanksgiving, I decided I needed to take the extra step if my wishes could not be followed. I went on Amazon and bought a large glass display case with a lock on the doors, like a trophy case you would see in a school. I neatly arranged the Skylanders, Disney Infinity figures, and a Milbos, all on their own shelves. Since it is around Christmas time, my sister has once again come to stay in home with my nephew. It was to his very unpleasant surprise when he entered our game room to see this newly locked display case. He begged me to open it so he can play with the figures, and I repeatedly told him about all of the other games he could play. Jane says, "I've gone too far purchasing a large display case for my toys, so I can, as she puts it, lock up the one thing Tommy enjoys playing with when he visits." She also has our mother on her side, calling me to tell me to stop bullying my nephew. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments, not the a-hole. I repeatedly tell Jane and Tommy that the figures in the game room are not to be touched, as they are collectibles in the works. Jane brushed this off and let Tommy play with these figures against my request. So a clear boundary which your sister allowed her kid to breach. It's totally okay you brought the cabinet. When your nephew didn't listen, your sister should have stepped up, been a parent, and told him no. It's on her to buy those toys if he wants to play with them, or stay at a hotel where they'll have to pay for stuff he breaks. She also has our mother on her side, calling me to tell me to stop bullying my nephew. So rather than do the right thing, she ran whining to your mom. Her reaction shows why your sister is a huge a-hole and a complete failure as a parent. Not the a-hole. They don't have to stay with you. There are hotels, so if the fact that you lock up your collectibles after her children get into them, after being told not to do that, offends her so deeply, she and her family can stay in one. You don't owe her child the privilege of playing with your collectibles, in her 40s. My eldest sister got into Barbies in a big way. In her guest bedroom, she had a triple shelf that held well over a dozen Barbies, all in the box. She told me that she didn't have to worry about me messing with her Barbies because I didn't like dolls as a child, but when friends with children came over, she had to lock the room to keep children away from them. Not the a-hole. Tell your sister that the fact you and your husband put them up doesn't mean she makes the decisions in your household. You made some simple requests, and she failed to uphold them. So your options are either withdrew the invitation or lock up your collectibles. You don't care that her son likes to play with them. He broke one, and your husband, not her, paid for the replacement. She should be frankly ashamed at taking advantage of your hospitality while telling her child to abuse it. I mean, he knows you don't want him to play with them, but because Mummy Dearest told him it was okay, he ran straight to them. If your house is so boring, he can bring toys from home, or they can stay in a hotel. Not the a-hole, it's clear Jane refuses to teach her spoiled child to respect other people's stuff. Quite frankly, I'd tell her to start going to a hotel if she can't respect such a simple rule in your house. A lock on the game room would have been cheaper and more effective, as well as cut down on whining if he sees something he can't touch. The case isn't a bad idea, but I think a lock on the door is the next step if you ever let them in your house again. If that isn't feasible because this is your general entertaining room, perhaps panels to cover the case. I do get that he sees toys when you know they are expensive collectibles. If they are regular visitors and your sister can't be bothered to bring him some toys, get something that will age well for him, such as a general set of Lego to keep for him to play with. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, I have a 2-year-old daughter and a 35-year-old brother-in-law. They both love playing, building Lego. We visit quite often, so we have brought a box of Lego they are comfortable leaving there for her to play with. However, if we visited less frequently, we would bring some with us. My 2-year-old can understand that some Lego is for looking at and some is for playing with. Honestly, I would be relieved if they brought a beautiful cabinet to store my brother's finished models in, because I do still have to redirect her occasionally, because those are my brother-in-law's Lego models and would feel awful if she broke any of them. Story 3. Am I the a-hole here for telling my wife I'd rather her mom be homeless than let her move in with us? My wife's mom, 62 female, is terrible. She's a professional victim who has burned every bridge in her life. She's stolen money from family, sabotaged relationships, and once, accidentally, set a small fire in her previous apartment because she was mad at her landlord. Now, surprise, surprise, she's being evicted and called my wife, 35 female, crying about how she has nobody else. My wife immediately jumped to, "Of course you can stay with us," without consulting me. We have 2 young kids, a small house, and 0 tolerance for drama. The idea of her mom moving in fills me with dread. I told my wife flat out, "I'd rather your mom be homeless than let her move in with us." That didn't go over well. My wife is furious and says I'm heartless. I tried to compromise, suggesting we help pay for a short-term rental or look into senior housing, but my wife insists it's family or nothing. Am I really the bad guy for setting this boundary? Now for the comments, not the a-hole. Allowing anyone to move into your home is a 2 yes discussion. 1 no vote is all it takes to put the kibosh on the idea. Your wife needs to have the scales fall from her eyes to see the harsh truth about her mother. Offering assistance to help her transition to another short-term residence was more than generous and a good compromise. Well said. You can support the mother-in-law without being in direct contact with her poison. Please do not give in. You will regret it forever. Do not let her in, and get you and your wife to marriage counseling ASAP. Mark my words, this has the potential to ruin your marriage. Your mother-in-law installed the buttons to manipulate your wife as a child, and when someone toxic is around something healthy, they will do everything to F it up so to not feel bad about themselves. Also, it's just them being themselves. Not the a-hole, stand firm. If she moves in, she might not move out. And there's a reason she has nobody else. Either she's burned all her bridges or your house would be the most comfortable place for her to be. Not your problem. If she moves in, why on earth would she ever leave? She'll have everything she needs with no consequences for her previous behavior, which means it will continue. This is a potential marriage breaker. Explain this to your wife and see who she picks. God forbid she sets fire to the place while the children are in it. I'm a retired psych nurse. We had to find placement for a lot of our patients. It was almost impossible to place anyone with a history of fire setting because it's a proven fact that they'll likely do it again. I remember one patient. We loved having her but couldn't find any living situations because she had set a fire before. She said all the right things. She was sorry, she's learned to handle frustration in a positive manner, etc. We finally found a place for her and said goodbye. She was back in 2 weeks. Why? She got angry with someone and set a fire. The first time OP says anything to her about her behavior, she's going to retaliate. Will she burn the house down with his family in it? Who knows? But does OP want to find out? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I can't risk my kids' safety just to avoid being called heartless. Absolutely not the a-hole. Your wife had no right to make that offer without your assent. And if you're smart, you'll stick to your refusal. Your mother-in-law sounds too toxic to unleash on your kids or yourself. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister why did her husband leave her if she is such a perfect wife and mother? I, 30 female, had my first baby 8 months ago and am already back to work. I own several beauty salons with my husband, and we both agreed that when our child is born, we will rely on the help of a nanny that we have known for years so I can continue working. Our baby boy is very happy. We, the parents, are also very happy, and life is great overall. Last week, my sister, 35 female, came by our house to drop something, and she happened to come just when I was returning from work. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, and I assumed everything was cool. Yesterday, we went to our parents' place to have a cup of coffee and agree on some things for the Christmas dinner, and my sister started making comments that she feels so bad that my husband and son are lacking the proper care and attention a wife and a mother should give to her family. She was telling this to my husband in front of me and our parents. I did not have a chance to say anything because my husband told her he and our son are not lacking anything and asked her where she got that idea from. My sister explained that last week when she came to our house and I was just returning from work. She saw how I looked, that I had makeup on, my hair was done, my nails were perfect, and it showed that I was very concerned about superficial things instead of being a good mother and wife. Husband said her remarks are just plain stupid since I have always been like this. This is part of my identity, and if I look good and am concerned with my looks, it does not mean I am not a good wife or mother. My sister continued saying that as parents who have a boy, we should be concerned the example we give to him because he has to learn to appreciate women for other qualities other than looks. She even said my husband has no idea what he is talking about because he doesn't know what he is missing out yet. I was already angry at this point, so I asked her if that was the case. Why did her husband leave her? She pays no attention to her looks. Based on her messed up ideas, she has all the qualities of a dedicated wife and mother, but still her ex-husband left her and willingly wanted to miss out her perfect bum. She started crying and shouting, and Dad kicked her out. Mom was trying to make us both apologize, but Dad was not having it and asked her to leave. Today, my sister sends me a novel explaining all the reasons why I am the a-hole. She claims it was cruel of me to mention her ex-husband leaving her when she was just worried for her brother-in-law and nephew. She claims I am the a-hole because Dad kicked her out of their house yesterday and is taking my side. I have not responded to her message yet because I am still angry. I admit I may have been cruel to her, but she was insulting me, so she had it coming. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole because she opened the topic for discussion. If we are not all allowed to out our opinions in on other people's families, then why was she insisting on doing that? It's her standard you were going with when she insisted on it. She opened the door, then propped it open. You just walked through it. Who made her the expert on family integrity when there's no problem needing a resolve? And who made her the relationship guru? You're in the right. Piece of advice I've used over the years and has been very effective. Write it when you're hot, send it when you're not. You should write your response when you're pissed, but don't send it. Wait until you calm down, reread it, and either send it, amend it, or delete it, as you feel appropriate. Not the a-hole. She opened up Pandora's box and you closed it. It reminds me of when my boss wanted me to travel a lot and gave me advice on how to manage my wife. I listened and then responded, "Aren't you divorced twice?" He laughed and then said, "Never mind." Not the a-hole. I may be way off the mark here, but I get the feeling she was trying to plant a seed in your husband's mind that you aren't committed to your family and he'd be better off with someone else. Like her. Either way, reeks of jealousy and you are 100% not the a-hole. I came to say the same and looked to see if anyone else thought the same first. And this is right on the mark. This is exactly what I was thinking. She is trying to insert herself into her sister's marriage and take her place. trying to plant that seed of doubt and offer herself as the perfect wife he needs and deserves. I hope OP keeps an eye on this snake. Classic F around and find out. Or as we used to say, can't stand the heat? Then get out of the kitchen. Well done stomping out the disrespect. And props to Pops for putting his foot down, not the a-hole.
Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.